The movie begins with two friends, Sid and his best friend Alex, on a journey. After some time riding, Sid decides to stop to give water to his horse. He approaches a puddle, but Alex warns him not to drink from it. Sid, curious, questions the reason, as it is the first water they have found in days. Alex doesn't explain, allowing Sid to discover for himself. Then he takes the risk and upon tasting it, feels a bitter taste and quickly spits it out. On the ground, Sid sees a peculiar stone, but discards it without realizing its importance. He asks Alex if he is hiding something since his friend warned him about the water. Alex reveals that the area is cursed by dragons, creatures that bring destruction and fear. Sid expresses skepticism about the story, but at that moment, Alex mentions that it has been a long time since it rained in this place, and soon after, a strong storm begins to form. Surprised, Alex watches as Sid laughs, as his friend has been proven wrong by fate itself. Deciding to seek shelter, they brace themselves against the rising storm. Upon exiting, it is revealed that the stone found by Sid is actually a dragon egg, which when struck by lightning, begins to emerge and develop rapidly. While they ride, Alex feels that something is strange, for the storm has stopped. Turning around, he sees that enormous dragon flying overhead and quickly warns Sid, who becomes terrified. Noticing they have become targets of the creature, they begin to flee for their lives on their horses. During the escape, Alex gets captured, but paralyzed by fear, Sid does not realize this and continues to gallop. He only stops when the dragon throws his friend's lifeless body in front of him, and his horse, in a sudden panic, abandons him, leaving him at the mercy of his own fate. Sid, in despair, runs to hide behind some rocks, trembling with fear as he waits for the beast's approach. Sometime later, in a nearby village, we meet Francis, the village blacksmith. While working, he notices a rat approaching his trap, and curious to know if it works, he moves closer. To his surprise, the trap fails, but when he touches it, it is quickly activated. The man feels he is being watched, and when he turns around, he discovers his brother, Roberto. He decided to return upon hearing that their father is ill and asks Francis how much time he has left. Francis replies that it could be days or weeks, as his lungs are weak. After greeting each other, the two wander through the town and plan what they will do after their father's death. Roberto says that Francis needs to decide his future, as he has spent half his life taking care of their father. Francis mentions that he already has his plans, and Roberto, noticing the glances of a young woman named Isabel, jokes that he already knows what his brother's plans are, insinuating that everything involves Isabel. Francis denies it, asserting that she was only helping to care for their father, and Roberto smiles, pretending to believe him. At that moment, Sid appears dragging himself, and the brothers rush to help him. Sid says they need to help him because something is coming after him, leaving the villagers worried. Francis, not understanding, asks what Sid is looking for. Sid replies that it is a dragon, and then faints due to his injuries. A man, thinking he is delirious, tells everyone to stand back. The brothers decide to take him inside to treat him, and Isabel quickly hands him a glass of water. After drinking, Francis demands clearer answers about what happened. Sid explains that he wandered through the cursed lands of the West, and that although he was with a friend, he ended up being killed by the dragon. While they were trying to protect themselves from the rain, they were attacked, and Sid managed to escape by hiding behind rocks, believing that the rain prevented the dragon from smelling him. Despite his explanations, some villagers do not believe Sid and begin to suspect him, accusing him of killing his friend to take the water, since the place is scarce in water. Isabel decides to trust Sid, even amidst the suspicions. After Sid describes the creature, John mentions the legend of the Jabberwock, known in the village, and Sid reveals that he heard about it when he was a child. John confirms that the story was told to scare children, and that, if the dragon is a Jabberwock, some may have survived, even though their species is supposedly extinct. Miguel stands up, saying they need to hunt the creature before it attacks. John warns that it is not simple to kill a Jabberwock, as even the Romans struggled to eliminate them. Miguel reaffirms that they will hunt the dragon. Francis asks Sid to take them to the creature, but he tries to refuse, and Francis insists that this is not a choice. The next day, the brothers visit their father, Lord Edmundo, who is ill. Roberto asks Francis if he believes in Sid's stories, and Francis admits he is not sure. Edmundo, overhearing this conversation, asks Francis to listen to the man, as he believes he is speaking the truth. At that moment, they hear screams and run outside. Upon arriving, they encounter a gigantic dragon feeding on the villagers. Roberto warns that he will go get the swords while Francis remains in shock at what he sees. Roberto enters the workshop and finds Sid hiding from the creature. Before leaving, he says he believes him and understands how he survived. Then he quickly returns, hands a sword to Francis, and tries to confront the dragon, but his shield is easily broken. Other men arrive to help them, and Miguel tries to attack but is knocked down. The men shoot arrows, but they have no effect on the creature. The brothers use a ladder to reach the dragon and manage to catch its attention. Isabel is worried about her sister Joelina, who is missing. She screams until the young girl appears from a house. While the brothers continue to fight the dragon, it throws Roberto against the wall, distracting Francis, who tries to attack the creature and ends up slipping. The dragon then quickly turns to Joelina, who is trying to return to her sister, but is captured and taken away. Francis runs to comfort Isabel and promises to bring her back. The group discusses the situation, and Sid cannot stop referring to the Jabberwock story, while Miguel, annoyed, asks him to be quiet. Sid asserts that he tried to warn them, but no one believed. Irritated, Miguel claims that all Sid has done is attract the creature to them, and another man says that everyone knows Sid is the dragon's target. Miguel expresses a desire to hand Sid over to the dragon so they can be at peace, but John stops him. Francis emphasizes that Miguel does not speak for everyone, and he in turn responds that the same applies to Francis. Francis states that blame no longer matters, and what truly counts now is what they will do. Roberto suggests they need to eliminate the creature, and Francis reminds them that his brother is the only experienced warrior, stressing that protecting the village is the priority. Miguel offers to go after the creature, but Isabel points out that this would leave the village vulnerable. John proposes evacuating the village, but Miguel disagrees, as he considers it their home. He decides to take leadership in the hunting mission and asks the brothers to stay to protect the village. John argues that they need to alert other villages about the dangers. Sid expresses his willingness to take on this task, but Miguel refuses, stating that he is not in his full mental capacities. Then another man offers. Before they leave, Miguel informs them that they will set out at dawn and asks everyone to organize themselves. The next day, while they prepare, Francis sees his brother leaving and asks what he is thinking of doing. Roberto replies that he was made for war and that he and their father should have accepted this truth long ago. Soon the men set off in search of the creature, and Francis decides to forge a new sword. John appears sharing a new story, and Francis says it is too early for that. John mentions that now they know the Jabberwock exists. He speaks of a legend that mentions a magical sword capable of eliminating a Jabberwock. John questions Francis about his intention to have a similar sword, and Francis reveals that he intends to use it against the creature to bring peace. Meanwhile, the hunters are in the forest, and Sid comments that the dragon has probably already left, asking them to return, but no one pays him any attention. The messenger continues his mission when his horse begins to hesitate. He manages to make it move, but upon reaching an open field, he is attacked by the dragon. In the village, Isabel runs to find Francis, warning him that their father has worsened, and he rushes to see how he is. Their father asks Francis to follow his heart and not become a dying old man like him. Francis mentions his desire to leave the village, which Isabel hears with a heavy heart. Their father advises that if he truly desires this, he should do it before it is too late. He asks for one last favor, that Francis wears the armor and defeats the creature, and he promises he will do so. At that moment they hear the sound of a horse, and their father thinks it is his son, but Francis informs him that it is not. He goes out armed and finds the messenger's horse, and Isabel appears asking what happened, and without explaining, he mounts the horse, and when she asks where he is going, he simply tells her to return home and not to leave there. Sid takes the warriors where he found the creature, and the men look over the terrain from the top of the mountain. The body of Sid's friend is still there, and the men wonder why the dragon did not eat him. Miguel asks what they will do now. However, there is no time for answers, as a powerful roar resonates from the other side of the mountain. Miguel instructs the men to hurry, as they still have a long way to go. Meanwhile, Francis follows the messenger's trail and finds the fallen man's body, mourning deeply. The hunters detect the presence of the dragon and locate where the creature hides. Roberto comments that this cliff must be at least 30 meters high and concludes that the only option is to climb. Sid tries to escape the task, but is looked at with disdain. Roberto acknowledges that it was a good attempt, but it won't work. Francis returns to the village and finds John, asking him to tell everything about the legend of the sword. The men begin to climb, but Sid has difficulties and slips, attracting the dragon that emerges from the cave and begins the attack. Miguel tries to react, but Roberto warns that it is useless to use the sword at that moment and asks another man to use the bow. The shot has no effect, only irritating the dragon, which captures the man and throws him to the ground. The beast returns to the top of the mountain and tries to attack again while the others try to defend themselves. Sid is paralyzed with fear. Miguel says they need to retreat because it is impossible to fight. Sid descends the mountain and makes the creature take to the sky again. Roberto is captured and taken to the dragon's nest. Sid approaches the wounded man, who before dying, informs him that the creature can only be killed if struck in the heart. After the man's death, Sid decides to test this, mounting his horse and attracting the creature while preparing to shoot the bow. When the dragon approaches, Sid hits it in the chest, making it fall. But this is not enough to kill it, and it manages to return to the cave. Now Sid knows how to wound it. Miguel approaches and expresses pride in what he did, but warns him that there will be consequences next time he abandons him. Francis continues to interrogate John, but he cannot provide more information, only that the Romans hunted this creature in antiquity, and that it could be the last specimen. Francis argues that, being an animal guided by instinct, they can repeat the process, and maybe Roberto can kill it. He is surprised to see the men returning without Roberto. He asks where his brother is, and Miguel reveals that he was captured. Francis wants to go back to rescue his brother, but Miguel warns that it would be suicide. Yet Francis insists on going after Roberto, but John manages to stop him, asking him to think before acting. On the way back, Isabel suggests that he inform their father about Roberto, but Francis refuses until he knows if his brother is really dead and leaves the place. Francis goes to the blacksmith shop and finds his father working. The man is surprised to see that his son does not reprimand him for working. With tears in his eyes, Francis worries his father and mentions that he needs to say something important. Meanwhile, in the dragon's nest, Roberto, waking up, realizes the creature in front of him and also spots Jocelina unconscious. In a smaller group, they gather to discuss what to do about the Jabberwock. Miguel asserts that hunting it is not an option, and Francis agrees, emphasizing that the dragon will come to them. He reveals his plan to create a larger trap to attract the creature, ensuring that they will be able to kill it. With everyone in agreement, he asks them to be prepared and armed to face the beast. Back in the nest, Roberto, realizing that the dragon is sleeping, tries to escape, but sees that Jocelina is alive. He signals for her not to scream and approaches slowly, but ends up tripping over a stone and making noise. The creature moves but soon goes back to sleep, allowing Roberto to continue. He lifts her and starts guiding her to the exit. Before they leave, Roberto reveals that he managed to take an egg from the nest, and Jocelina asks why he wants that. Roberto explains that soon there will be more of these creatures and that he might be able to extract some information from the egg, besides mentioning that their mother will want the egg back. In the village, Francis discusses his plan with his father, who is very disheartened by the possibility of losing his son. Francis asks his father not to give up and to help him build the trap to capture the creature, but the man is so depressed that he cannot respond. Meanwhile, Roberto is on his way back with Jocelina, but she struggles to walk. He decides to carry her in his arms, but Jocelina, also disheartened, says she does not want to be a burden. Roberto replies that she is not in a position to argue and continues onward, but soon hears the dragon's roar and becomes alert. Francis insists that his father help him, promising to use the trap properly to kill the creature. The father agrees, saying they will be able to avenge their son's death. They prepare, but soon hear the dragon's roar and rush downstairs to investigate. When they no longer hear anything, they think the dragon is gone. However, the dragon returns to the village in search of more victims. Meanwhile, Isabel hides at home with some children, asking for silence. They then hear the dragon approaching, and soon it appears, roaring ferociously. Francis, upon hearing the cry for help, grabs the sword and prepares to fight, while his father warns him to be careful, not wanting to lose another son. He goes out and tries to face the creature, but is quickly knocked down. At that moment, John appears and says that the creature is like the one from the legend. Their father, armed, faces the creature and is bitten in the neck, but manages to strike the dragon in the chest, causing it to retreat. Francis runs to help, but his father informs him that it is too late and asks him to avenge his brother. After their father's death, Francis collapses in tears, while John and Isabel approach to mourn. Hours later, he buries his father, and Isabel, saddened, advises Francis not to act recklessly, reminding him that his father gave him a new chance to live and asks him not to waste it. Roberto approaches carrying Jocelina, and their brothers rush to embrace them. Francis, happy to see his brother alive, sadly informs them of their father's death. Furious, Roberto promises to avenge their father's death soon. Later, gathered together, Miguel holds an egg and questions how this is possible, as there is only one specimen of the creature. Sid tries to leave but is stopped by Francis, who asks for more information. Sid mentions having seen a creature before arriving in the village, thinking it was just a stone, and confirms having seen the creature a few hours after the egg, worrying everyone about its rapid growth. Roberto reveals that he saw at least a dozen eggs in the nest, and Francis emphasizes that they cannot allow these eggs to hatch. Miguel observes that it will be impossible to destroy them with the mother nearby. Roberto suggests luring her and killing her before exterminating the hatchlings. Everyone agrees, but Sid asks how they will attract the creature before the eggs hatch. Realizing he might be the bait, he tries to leave again, but the others calm him, stating that this will be the easy part of the mission. They soon begin constructing the trap with Francis's instructions. He leaves the men working and goes to Isabel. She asks if something happened, and he informs her that things have changed and they need to talk. Francis asks her to lead the villagers to the other side of the river and walk west, a safe place. He informs her that only a few men will stay behind to kill the Jabberwock. With everyone in the village, this hinders the plan. This will create a flaw, as the creature will be attracted by the villagers and will not fall into the trap. It is better to have fewer people. Isabel hesitates, but Francis explains that time is crucial and the eggs cannot hatch. If they do, it will be their end. She accepts the plan but questions why he does not love her, reminding him of his conversation with their father about leaving the village. Francis asserts that he would never leave her and that all of this is temporary. Isabel thinks of leaving, but he pulls her in and kisses her, making clear how much he loves her. He asks her to trust him, because when all this is over, they will be able to be together. He goes to the workshop and finds Roberto trying to put on the armor, asking what he is doing. Roberto says that he knows his brother's abilities, but he is the one who will kill the dragon. Furious, Francis demands that he take off the armor, as he promised their father that he would kill the Jabberwock. Roberto takes off the armor but refuses to accept this, stating that Francis has no combat experience. Francis challenges him to a sword duel, and whoever wins will fight in the armor. They begin the confrontation, and Roberto proves superior, quickly disarming Francis, but he fights back with strength. Again, Roberto manages to disarm him and asks Francis to surrender, but he refuses. Roberto says that he has waited for this moment his entire life. Francis does not understand, and then Roberto reveals that he always wanted to see a fighting spirit in him. They then decide to kill the creature together. Everyone prepares for battle, and Francis forges a new sword. Isabel explains the evacuation process to the villagers and starts the mission. Before they leave, Francis runs to her and asks her not to go into the open field and to stay in the forest until someone signals that it is safe to return. He mentions that if no one arrives, she should leave with the others. Isabel forces Francis to promise that he will return and bids farewell with a kiss. Sid is responsible for the group, and Francis asks him to be careful. He wishes the same and says goodbye. The remaining 4 men climb the trap door, but upon hearing the dragon's growl, they become frightened and release it. The trap falls on Roberto's arm, injuring him. Although he says he is fine, they cannot waste time as the creature is approaching. The villagers hurry to hide in the forest, and suddenly the dragon appears, trying to attack them. This causes panic, and Isabel asks Sid to push the dragon away so they can escape, but he, trembling with fear, refuses. She calls Sid a coward and decides to act on her own, mounting her horse and returning to the village, thereby attracting the dragon with her. Meanwhile, the men wait for the creature, which soon appears, and they prepare to kill it. Francis uses the egg as bait, and upon seeing Isabel, becomes worried but has no time to react. The beast approaches, and Francis waits for the attack while his comrades prepare. The creature enters the trap and grabs the egg, but does not activate the mechanism. Then he decides to trigger it with his foot, thus becoming trapped with the monster. He quickly commands them to attack, but he is quickly thrown back. Miguel uses a spear to wound the creature, but ends up getting killed. Francis stands up to face the beast again and stabs it in the chest, but the effect is minimal and he is thrown back. Roberto, seeing his brother in trouble, runs to help but is gravely injured, allowing the creature to escape. Francis runs to his brother, and before he dies, Roberto asks him to exterminate the creature, causing everyone to weep. After burying his brother, Francis gets ready for the new battle, determined to avenge his family. Isabel warns about the risks, but he is resolute. At that moment, Sid appears and asks for forgiveness for putting everyone in danger. Francis asks him to take him to the creature's nest as a way of apologizing. Arriving at the location, they see the creature entering the nest, and Francis observes that it is severely injured. Sid questions why they do not watch the creature until it dies, but Francis disagrees and decides to kill it with his own hands, while Sid will take care of the hatchlings. They sneak through the nest, and upon spotting the creature, Sid freezes. Francis encourages him, saying they need to separate. Thus, the two advance separately. Sid approaches the eggs and prepares to destroy them. He hesitates, but Francis encourages him, When the dragon turns, Sid begins to break the eggs, and as he is about to be attacked, Francis, in a furious blow, cuts off the creature's head, which dies quickly. They celebrate the victory, and Sid finishes breaking the remaining eggs. Upon exiting the nest, Francis asks Sid what he is thinking. He comments about heading toward the ocean and starting a new story. Francis says he is welcome in the village, but if that is his wish, he wishes him good luck. Francis returns to the village carrying the dragon's head, and the duo waits for him anxiously. He shows the monster's head, making it clear that he won. John asks about Sid, and Francis says he is fine and sought a new beginning. Back in the nest, Sid ends up forgetting one last egg, which breaks and gives rise to a new Jabberwock. While walking, planning his future, a new storm begins. Sid, terrified, realizes that the creature is back.